Hey everyone, we're going to talk today a little bit about how to learn Claw the fastest way possible, strictly playing Warzone. Many of you might not have Modern Warfare 19 or Vanguard or another Call of Duty to play to practice, so we'll talk a little bit about Warzone and how to practice Claw in Warzone. We'll show a little bit of settings and my recommendations there, as well as some gameplay. In my personal opinion, if you're going to learn to play Claw, you should probably start with the practice map a little bit in the private match section here that you're seeing on screen, and then move into a game mode like Plunder Quads. Reason I say that is because in terms of the BR map, it's big, you can die very easily, and you could be 2 deaths and out, which can be frustrating and it won't help you learn. And when you play Resurgence, it's very fast paced, can be very hectic. Sometimes you might not even get a loadout for a bit. And that can get frustrating too. So in my opinion, if Plunder's available in the playlist, it's best to start there. You start with a loadout, you're playing the big map, you can get used to movement and get some good practice in there before moving on to other game modes. As usual, I'm available for answering questions, things like that in the comments. I'm always happy to help. Additionally, we'll get into some details of the settings, as I mentioned, and I'll also link my other videos in the description for reference if you're new to Claw and want to learn the fundamentals. I cover all different layouts between DualShock, Xbox layout, as well as how to play Double Claw. Alright, so let's get into some settings. Alright, so we're mainly going to focus on controller settings. We'll talk mainly about just those settings strictly. I'm not going to get into graphics settings and audio settings. I play on pretty much what a lot of people play on. Pretty much everything low on the graphics settings to optimize as much FPS as possible, plus playing at 1440p. So we'll talk quickly about controller settings here. Now, one of the things that I will highly recommend is the horizontal and vertical sensitivity to be at a moderate level. If you watch any CDL pros, any challengers players, most of them play around this type of sensitivity, 5, 6, 7, something in the neighborhoods. Mainly Warzone pros play maybe a little bit higher. This is something I'm comfortable with. Sometimes I play higher, but I would at least recommend starting at a moderate level like this so that the joysticks don't feel too weird when you're learning to play Claw. And then over time, if you want to play at something faster, feel free to up it progressively until you get to some place that you feel like is best for you. But in my opinion, this is where I at least would start. I play on tactical flipped. I play on a DualShock controller. That's personally what I prefer. So I play tactical flipped. And if you're learning Claw, in my opinion, again, my opinion, is moving it to tactical instead of default will make it easiest to slide. If you think about the amount of times you're going to slide or crouch versus melee, it's tenfold higher. So I would put that on a button that's the quickest to hit, which would be the right thumbstick. So that's why I play tactical. If I were playing on a Xbox layout type of controller, I probably would just play default. There's something about the bumpers and triggers that feel a little weird to me playing those on tactical. So I'd prefer to play default. Or not necessarily default. I play tactical on an Xbox layout, but I'm talking more or less flipped. I would not play flipped on an Xbox layout. On a DualShock layout, though, I would play tactical flipped. It's easier to shoot, in my opinion, with the bumpers, the left and right bumpers, over using the standard triggers. It's also faster to activate them as well for shooting. So it's a complete advantage. It makes it a lot easier to also hit those face buttons when you play flipped instead of playing just standard. So I prefer flipped. I would highly recommend playing tactical flipped if you're new to playing Claw on a DualShock layout. If you are playing on an Xbox layout, again, I would just try standard tactical and see how that goes for you. Over time, if you want to move over to default, feel free. I've played definitely some time playing default. I just find that hitting circle repetitively for sliding and slide canceling is harder, in my opinion. It's doable, but in my opinion is a little bit harder. So I prefer tactical flipped, so that would be what I'd recommend most people to start with. There's other settings in here such as dead zones. I mean, this is all preference. When we talk about dead zones, it's about your controller. Some people need higher dead zones because they experience stick drift, so they need to do that and up them. So my advice to you is to strictly just go into a game and see if your character moves at all. If he does not, beautiful. that means that left stick is right. That's the right dead zone. If your crosshairs aren't moving either, it means you got the right dead zone there. So you're going to have to play with this value up and down until you see no movement of your character and no movement of the crosshair on your screen. Then you've come to the right value. These are the ones that work for me, so these are the ones that I've personally settled on. 0 and 5 for my controller specifically. The max input dead zones, left and right, I leave those default. Again, we talked about stick sensitivity. I prefer 6.6. I don't play with the sensitivity multiplier for ADS. I leave that at 1. I don't play with the custom per zoom. Aim response curve, this is preference. Most people either use dynamic or standard. Not many people play linear. I prefer dynamic, so I leave it that way. Controller vibration, disabled. I've played COD since COD 3. I played heavily COD 4 Modern Warfare, the very first one that came out that was Modern Warfare. I've never played vibration on that game, maybe Halo back in the day, but I don't like controller vibration. I think it's distracting. You can see hit indicators on the screen. You don't need vibration. Aim assist, standard. I don't mess with that. Scale aim assist with FOV. This is what I see a lot of streamers use, is just enabled, so I haven't necessarily questioned it, so I leave it. These are all pretty much default. Aim down sight behavior, I prefer hold. That's just what I'm accustomed to, having played for many years, so I leave it as hold. I use steady aim toggle. To me, when I'm sniping, I'd rather just push the trigger in to steady and shoot rather than having to hold it. I think that throws off aim, in my opinion. At least for me it does, so I leave it as toggle. Again, all this is pretty much default. Use reload behavior. If you are not using contextual tap, you're doing it wrong. Please use contextual tap. It makes it easier to loot. Yes, you hold for reload when there's things around you, but to open doors faster, it's easy just to tap instead of hold. You need that in Warzone to close people out behind you when running away if you need to get plated or stimming. And it's also just easier to loot. So I would highly recommend you using contextual tap if you're not currently. Get used to it. It's what everybody uses that is at least decent at this game. Armored plate behavior, apply all. No one uses apply one. Apply all is what you want to use, so switch to it. It will save your life. The rest of this is pretty much default slide behavior. Tap, definitely. You're going to be sliding a lot. Auto move forward, no one uses that. It's disabled. Tactical sprint is double tap, but that doesn't matter. If you are not a CDL pro, you're not in challengers, you're not competing, use automatic tactical sprint. There's no reason to have to mash your joystick to sprint or to jeopardize the longevity of your controller. Use it. And that's pretty much it for settings. And we'll get into some gameplay here so you can see claw in action. You've seen it in some other videos of mine, but we'll get into some more of it now. And as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I'll respond as soon as I can. Thanks, everyone.